the 2020 election, there have been rising tensions on Capitol Hill and across the country over voter rights. It's a battle over how people cast their ballots, how the votes are counted, and who oversees the process. The U.S. Senate is expected to vote on voter rights legislation this week. And Maine's independent Senator Angus King says his vote on this issue is the most important one he'll ever cast in his life. 207's Samantha York talked to King and Republican Senator Susan Collins, who has a very different view of this issue.
For those who aren't well versed in what's happening with voting rights across the country, on Capitol Hill, what are those behind these voting right changes? What are they looking to do?
What they're looking to do is to remedy voting rights changes that are taking place in a number of states. I think the number of 19 at this point that have passed legislation that in one way or another either restricts voting, changes the responsibility from nonpartisan vote counters and certification process to partisans, inserts the legislature into the process. So what we're talking about here in Washington is to correct those changes. Interestingly, it won't impact Maine much because most of the things that we're working on here, Maine already has. Maine has same-day registration. We have no excuse absentee voting. We have drop boxes. We have mail-in voting. We have all the things that people feel are important in terms of their voting system. So in Maine, we're in good shape. The problem, Samantha, is that I'm worried that if we don't do something about this, it's only going to continue. It's going to get worse, and we're changing the structure. We're essentially rigging elections in the future. And it's going to undermine confidence in the election.
Maine's Republican Senator Susan Collins does not support either Voting Rights Act put forward by Democrats. Instead, she and a group of 12 senators, including Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, are working on legislation of their own, which involves updating the Electoral Count Act, a law that is nearly 150 years old.
We're also looking at having penalties for the harassment or intimidation of an election official or an irregular removal of an election official who certifies results when there's no indication of wrongdoing. And we're looking at reauthorizing the Elections Assistance Commission, which provides grants to states to help them improve their voting procedures. For example, I'd like to see those grants broadened so that they could be used to recruit and train poll workers, to buy voting machines that have a paper trail, to conduct a post-election audit.
What is your fear if this legislation doesn't pass?
My fear is the next time there is a contentious presidential campaign, which is very likely to occur, that we will see the same kinds of challenges that take place in Congress rather than in the courts where they belong, and that it will undermine people's confidence in the integrity of our elections.
Also on the table, the future of the filibuster. King and Collins remain split on whether changes should be made.
The filibuster generally requires 60 votes to pass major legislation, and it's an important safeguard. It's one that is intended to promote patience and perseverance and bipartisanship, not the raw exercise of power. And it's an important procedure. Moreover, to change that, to get rid of the filibuster under the Senate rules is supposed to require 67 votes. And that's why I think it's just out and out wrong for the Democratic leader to circumvent that 67 vote requirement in order to eviscerate the filibuster.
For the last 9 years, I've been opposed to changing the filibuster. But to me, if it comes down to a Senate rule versus democracy, I know where I'm going to come out on that. Now, the other thing that sort of bothers me about this whole discussion is that all the focus has been on Sinema and Manchin. There are 50 Republicans who are also saying absolutely no. And not only that, we don't even want to debate the bill. We've brought these bills up 3 times in the last 3 or 4 months, and they have voted unanimously not to even allow the bill to come to the floor for debate. What will the vote be later this week or next week? I can't predict, but I can tell you that it's one that we're all going to have to live with for a long time.
Now, the issue of voting rights is expected to be taken up again this week in Washington. For more from Collins and King, just head to the 207 section of our website or mobile app.